I was reading a lot of different books and people were saying, the United States is the land of the kuffar. We're not with these kuffar. Whatever they do, their ideas and their values and their way they dress and how they act and their language and so on. So we Muslims got nothing to do with that. So we in America, we Muslims, they're Kafirs. We don't follow nothing. But when I was 25 years old, I thought like a young guy. But as you get older, you don't think like that anymore. And if I show you show me a young man, I show you a fool. Why? Because he's foolish. He didn't have enough time to think, to experience, to understand, and to mature. So things that you thought as a young person, when you rethink it out at double the age, your approach to it becomes totally different. Because you're not a fool anymore. Fool comes from folly. Folly comes from fun. Fun means doing things without responsibility. And Islam is not a religion of folly or fun. إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب الذين يذكرون الله قياما قعودا وعلى جنوبهم يتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض. The Quran is always telling us to think, reflect, look. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد. The Quran always telling us think, research, compare, think before you speak. Think before you leap. When you jump off the bridge to go in the water, you do that backflip or whatever you do, and then you look down and you see there's no water in the pool. You headed for a bad decision. This means you should have done what? You should have looked before you leap. So we're here in America. This is a country which itself is built upon a system. And it has institutions which basically represent that system and makes it functional. People are not coming to America because of the mountains and the valleys, or they're not coming to America because of the weather. They're coming to America because of the institutional resources that cannot have any comparison in the world. And let's understand this. Money itself does not produce institutions. Monies can put up the buildings, but institutions is what make those buildings functional and what makes those bring integrity. So, we have an office in Sharjah, which is next to Dubai. And in Dubai, everything is biggest, everything. They don't have just the tallest building, but they got the 3 tallest buildings in the world. But guess what? They got buildings that's big, tall, beautiful buildings, and half the buildings is empty. They don't even know what to do with it. Because the people who built them, they had money, but they did not have institutional knowledge, so they could not project. But in America, when they put up a building, before they put up a building, there is zoning. It has to be in compliance. They have to prove to the people in the area, not just you got the money, I'm just going to build something. You have to show that the county where you live in, what's the benefit of that building? Does it come in conflict with anything else? What the design is going to be? Does it complement the rest of the place there? What you're going to give to that area? What's the give back that you're going to do? So there's so much goes into the American structure, and that is why people come to America not simply for the view and the smell and the sound. They come in here for the human and material resources. And the Americans did not get this from nothing. They got it from their experience in other places, and they extracted it and brought it back. And over a 200-year period of time, they have developed it to a level of sophistication that everybody comes here to get their education and take it back where they're going. It's not an accident. It is by design. So today I want to discuss this issue, Islam in America, from a very pragmatic point of view. Pragmatic means without emotion. I'm a Muslim, we can talk about Quran and Sunnah and all that kind of stuff, and wear the pants and the kufi and the thobe and the subjective. We're talking about being American citizens and being the best Muslims that we can be. And competing, first participating. Now understand this here, brothers and sisters. You can never compete if you don't participate. In order to compete, you have to participate. And you can never win if you don't compete. And that's why Muslims is not winning nowhere. See, look, here's a bottle of water. We Muslims, we are 8 million in the world. We didn't even produce a bottle of water. What did it take to produce a bottle of water? It's just a plastic bottle with something going around it there. It might have come from the faucet upstairs. But because of the branding, you believe that it has integrity. Because you believe in the brand. Well, Islam is our brand. If Islam is our brand, only the best comes from us. We demand the best and we the best. But what the Muslims is producing, why somebody should want to be a Muslim? We're not producing nothing. Ask your wives to look inside their house and find some instrument that's in the house that was made in a Muslim country. You don't even have a toaster. Look at all the cars out in the parking lot. There's not one car. 57% of all of the oil resources in the world are under the feet of the Muslims. And we have not produced one car. But the cow worshippers, the monkey worshippers, at least they got a Tata. I mean, it's a throwaway car, but it's still a car. What we produce, all the Gulf states, what car they produce, or what airplane they produce, what boat did they produce, what they produce. Everything that we're using, somebody else produced it for us and exploit us in order for us to get it. All the companies that is in the Muslim countries building right now, where do you think they're from? Where do you think they're from? Yemen? No, they're from Holland. They're from Germany. They're from France. They're from China. The railroads they just built, you know, something going from Jeddah to Mecca, from Jeddah to Medina, and from there, not to Medina to Arafat, to Muzdalifah, all of this here. Subhanallah. They say it cost 19 billion. And who got the contract? Turkish company? Chinese. Even the clothes that we wear. Turn the label around, see where it's made. Probably Hong Kong. So what we're producing, we're not producing anything. Why? Because we have become followers instead of leaders. Well, I say that being born in America and living in America, we have the chance to switch that. I believe that some of the young people that's in this room are going to be leaders. Why? Because they're not drinking, they're not drugging, they're not thugging, they're not gambling. You see? They're not doing farahish. They're not buying things on the credit card, so they're not going to be slaves of debt. They are clean-minded. They are focused. They are disciplined. They are inspired. They are motivated. And they're Americans. That's another thing. They're not just Muslims. They are Muslim Americans. That means like super duper. Yes. Now, for me, I don't have a conflict because I know that wherever I travel in the Muslim world or any other part of the world, they can be thinking maybe, oh, this guy, he's from Somalia. You know, they say, oh, where you from? Oh, maybe from Mauritania. They say, hey, shit, yeah, tired, tired to do anything. You know, yeah, I said, what you say? He said, speak of that. I said, listen, you Muslim? He said, of course I'm Muslim. He said in Arabic, Ta'keed, I'm Muslim. What about you? You Muslim? I said, what I look like? A Buddhist? Of course I'm Muslim. Now I don't know what you're talking about asking for no passport. Let me just show you something in case you don't know. First of all, I'm Greek. Faham ta'alek? And this passport that you're asking for, you better read it. What it says on it is that this is the property of Wilayat al-Muttahida al-America. So no, you ain't getting my passport. Go find somebody else. So what I found out over the years, that if they didn't respect me, they definitely respected the passport. So, passport don't mean nothing except passing through. But in the rest of the Muslim world, the passport is gold. So now I understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us Muslims who live in America and who are citizens of America, whether you got a green card, blue card, rainbow card, whatever getaway card, if you got a card to be here, you on the top level of the world. This means the opportunities that you never had, that you could have never dreamed about, you got them today. And if you don't use them, you're really a fool. So, I can give this talk in Brooklyn, or I can give this talk in Harvard. So if I switch up here and there, it's because I know some of y'all is like type Brooklyn type dudes. So I gotta say a little something, you know, like that. But at the same token, I'm gonna respect the people who got PhDs, and I'll try to make sure, make sure, something that, that my polemics and all of that is cross the T's and dot the I's. So, this could be a simple dialogue, but I told you that it is an academic discussion. And so, I delivered this here lecture probably in 5 or 6 different places in the last month. And some of them are masjids, and other times universities. Sometimes it's graduate students, and other times it's just high school students. But I know one thing, I'm speaking from my heart, because I believe that when Muslims reconcile the issue of Islam as a universal system designed by Allah and ordered by Allah, and America, a man-made system which is still the most functional, powerful, governmental system in the world today. When we reconcile those two systems, it's over. Because American people are on their way out. They already knocked, they knocked already. In a little while, they out. So when you knocked out, gone. Either they drugged out, they either drugged out, or they either drugged out, or they drank out, or they gambled out. Men marrying the men, women marrying the women, people sleeping with dogs. Everybody's getting a credit card to buy another credit card, and getting another credit card to take care of that credit card. So everybody's slaves, and they ain't got no way out. The people is committing suicide on one end and killing babies on the other end. So if the adult is committing suicide and the women is killing the babies, how they can stand? But Muslims, we're standing here, and one by one the people is falling in front of us. And all we have to do is keep our focus, keep our consciousness, maintain our principles, follow the system Allah has given to us, and take advantage of the system when you are, like everybody else. But in You're not just here. Probably the most tragic thing about most of the Muslims, the 8 million Muslims in America, is that they're only here. They're not participating. Point of fact, how many Muslims here can say that either you live here in America or you were born here in America, whether you studied or whatever, at least 5 years? Raise your hand. That you've been here at least 5 years. Either but you're born here, you go to school here, or you live here, or whatever, you've been here at least 5 years. Okay? Most of us, right? Good. How many of you can honestly say that you read the Constitution of the United States of America? Now, when I say you read it, I mean you read the Constitution, not you read a couple of pages and put it down. You read it because you believe it's important for you as a citizen to understand your rights, how to comply, okay, because the Constitution is not a book of fiction. The Constitution is the main body of moral and political legislation for this country. And if you don't understand, you didn't read the Constitution, that means you don't even know your rights. Nor do you know the rights of the other people, because that's inside the Constitution. You can't simply say, oh, I'm just here Muslim, I ain't got to do. What are you talking about? You got a license, you can't be on the road driving with no license. So how many people here driving without a license? Nobody, because you don't want to get locked up. But you don't think you need to have a license as a citizen. As a citizen, your license is not just a green card. If you just stay in America long enough and don't get in no trouble, they're going to give you a green card or some kind of card so they can exploit you. But if you want to be a functional citizen, you got to read the Constitution of the United States so that you understand what are your rights and what's the rights of the other people and where those rights reciprocate. That's the word. So I want to ask the question again. How many of you young guys or OGs read the Constitution of the United States? I mean, if you put it in print, it is only about 12 pages. That's it. 12 pages. How many of you read it? Be honest. Subhanallah. That means those who didn't read it, you are dysfunctional. That means that you're here, but you don't even count. You're here, but you don't even count. Next. If you didn't read the Constitution of the United States, how many of you read at least the preamble? We hold these truths to be self-evident. That's what it starts with. How many people said, no, they read the preamble? Because anybody in America that is serious about this country and is on their way to participate in this country, they at least know the preamble of the Constitution, just like you find a Muslim, he don't know the Fatiha. He said, man, what's the problem? What's your problem? He said, I've been studying the Fatiha for a long time. I've been Muslim 7 years. I ain't got it yet. This means that constitutionally we are inept. Constitutionally we are dysfunctional. Constitutionally we don't even count. Now some people will say, what does it matter? Well, it does matter. The Prophet ﷺ, when he made hijrah to Medina, it was not called Medina, it was called Yathrib. When the Prophet arrived in Yathrib, the first thing he did is to understand what was the urf of the people of Yathrib. And there are people here who have graduated from the universities, so they understand what the word urf means. Urf is the known and accepted good principles and virtues and ethics of a society, which itself does not clash, okay, with the integrity known to all human beings. Urf. In every society in the world, murder is illegal. Is it right? Is it correct or not? In every society in the world, stealing somebody's property is illegal, is it? In every place in the world, you cannot just enter somebody else's place and just say, I want to be here. There is a common urf everywhere you go. No, there is a common urf every place where you go. And Muslims need to study and understand the urf of the society where they are, and that part of the urf that itself does not conflict with Islam, guess what? We Muslims, we have to observe it. We have to comply with it. For instance, what is the highway speed here in the state of Missouri? Right? 60. But if you go 10 miles, probably the police will let you go, right? He doesn't have to, but generally, because that's what's called, that is urf. You see, that is known, and nobody found it secularly. It is urf of the society to drive on the right-hand side, isn't it? But if you go to London, Great Britain, what is the urf there? They're driving on the other side. So you have to go to urf, because if you drive on the urf from America, you go over there, you're going to run into somebody. So urf is the known laws of the given society which people are doing, which itself does not conflict with the values of Islam. We Muslims who live in America, we have to adapt to the urf of America. And the urf of America has a precedent. That means when we came here, the people was already following and complying with the system. And like the buses in Egypt, you have to jump on the system and keep going. You know the buses in Egypt, they don't stop. When I first went to Qaahira, you know, the guy told me, he said, go to the market, the bus is coming. And I just see the bus keep going. And I thought maybe they'd like express, you know. So I was there an hour and a half. So the bus, he said, where you going? I said, I'm waiting for the bus. He said, no, when the bus comes, you have to jump, you know. So the Egyptians got that part right. So, brothers and sisters, I'm talking about Islam in America, the challenge in front of us. Now, I understand, brothers, that it took me to write this here. This is a research paper. This is like a segment of it. The whole research paper is about 150 pages. And I'm still writing it. And at one point or another, it'll go into a manuscript that I'm developing. So I wrote this here by hand, and it took me probably around 4 or 5 hours on a plane to kind of write this. So to deliver it to you guys, it'll take about an hour. Now, if it's not interesting, just fall asleep. Or if you've got something else better to do, just go do that, no problem. But if you have not considered this issue, I would suggest that you buckle up, put your seatbelts on, and take a listen. And take that part that is relevant to you and the part that you don't think is relevant, just leave it. But perhaps you might hear something that might fill some voids in your life. There are 4 words that I want to build my talk around today. 4 words. Believe, participate, compete, and win. What's those 4 words?
Participate, compete, and win.
And win. Because these are the key words in the American system. If you read the main documents that the forefathers of this country wrote, whether Benjamin Franklin or John Hancock, you see, or John Adams, or Abraham Lincoln, or George Washington, or Thomas Jefferson, if you read their writings and sum it up, it's 4 words. Believe. And they did believe in God. The fact that they had some deviant beliefs is another issue. But they believed in God. They were not Hindus, they weren't Buddhists. And they were not atheists. They were people that believed in God. And that's why, on the money, even though they're not practicing it no more, they say, in God we trust. They say you trust. So they was believing in God, the God that they believed in. They was believing in that. They didn't care what the other people was believing. So they was believing. Secondly, they agreed to participate in a union. Because it was 13 states, right? 13 governors, 13 states, 13 governors, 13 colonies that formed 13 states that became the United States. States. That's like a Freudian slip. So they agreed to participate. Then they said, we're going to compete with the rest of the world. They made that statement. And after that, their aim was to win. And today, there are about 173 or 175, or somewhere in that area, major transnational corporations in the world. How many do you think? You know what a transnational corporation is? Does anybody here can define a transnational corporation? What is
A corporation that operates in various nations.
Yeah, it's a corporation which is a corporation whose brand, okay, has been absorbed, recruited, and established in several countries in the world, and it is a leading brand in that country. That's a transnational corporation, like General Electric, like McDonald's, like Burger King, like Pizza Hut, like Starbucks, like Walmart. These are transnational corporations, like Ford, like Chrysler, like Citicorp, like Chase. These are transnational. So there are 172 major transnational companies in the world today. How many of them do you think are American? 129 or 130. And it's not because the Americans went there, bombed everybody, and put their Walmarts there. In the last 10 years, Walmart has built 10,000 Walmarts in China. In the last 5 years, McDonald's have built 75,000 McDonald's in China. Pepsi and Coca-Cola, they sell more Pepsi and Coca-Cola to the Arabs than they do in America. Y'all know who've been on Hajj. You know when you go on Hajj, you go around the Tawaf, you be all thirsty, you think about that Big Mac before you even come out, this is the Haram. You're making Safa al-Marwa back and forth, back and forth, Safa al-Marwa, and you start licking your lips and all that there. By the time you finish and get your hair cut, you head straight over there to get that KFC, you come straight on over and get that Big Mac, and you ought to get a Baskin Robbins, one of them, you go up in there, and when your Hajj is all over, you sitting there with a